Hello, this is Matt Bergman, and you are listening to the Punk Rock Libertarians Podcast, episode 29. I am here tonight with none other than Jared Schneiderman.
I'm back, bitches.
And there is nobody else. It is just us two tonight. We're just hanging out, getting blazed, and we're going to bring you the documents.
Dude, yes, we are.
So, yeah, this is a sad week for the Liberty community. Irwin Schiff passed away. What was it? October 16th. I believe it was it 2 days ago or was it yesterday?
I think it might have been yesterday.
Might have been yesterday. Yeah. He passed away. And if you don't know about Irwin Schiff, we have actually posted some stuff about him in the past couple of days. If you type in his name on the website, you could probably find some other stuff that we posted in the past. He's long since been a hero of mine. He's essentially a tax resistor. He'd been fighting the income tax since the fucking 70s, and in 2006, at the age of 78, Irwin Schiff was incarcerated. He was given a 12-year prison sentence, and at the age of 78, that's essentially a death sentence, and that is essentially what it turned into, as he just died in prison.
He actually died of skin cancer. Peter Schiff posted this. I saw it today. And it was just basically this long post on his website. A lot of it was about the stuff that you said about Irwin's life, but he also went into what ultimately led to his death. I'll read a little bit of it here. This is in his words. The unnecessarily cruel twist in his final years occurred 7 years ago when he reached his 80th birthday. At that point, the government moved him from an extremely low security federal prison camp in New York State, where he was within easy driving distance from family and friends, to a federal correctional institute, first in Indiana and then in Texas. This was done specially to give him access to better medical care. But the trade-off was that they could no longer, it says here, he was forced to live isolated from those who loved him. Going down here. Yet while at the supposed superior medical facilities, my father received virtually no medical care at all, not even for the cataracts that had left him legally blind, until the skin cancer on his head had spread to just about every organ in his body. It says here, we tried to get him out of prison on compassionate release so that he could live out his final months of life with his family, but he did not live long enough for the bureaucratic process to be completed. 2 months after the process began, despite the combined help of a sitting Democratic U.S. Congresswoman and a Republican U.S. Senator, his petition was still sitting on someone's desk waiting for yet another signature, even though everyone at the prison wanted him released. It says here, eventually the cancer consumed his voice. As the cancer consumed him, his voice changed, and the prison phone system no longer recognized it, so he could not even talk with family members.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Dude, it gets more fucked up. When his condition deteriorated to the point where he needed to be hospitalized, government employees blindly following orders kept him shackled to his bed. This despite the fact that escape was impossible for an 87-year-old, terminally ill, legally blind patient who could barely breathe, let alone walk. Dude, how fucked up is that shit, man?
Yeah, man.
I mean, clearly they're just making an example out of this guy. A cruel, twisted, fucked up example.
Yeah, man.
I mean, he didn't hurt anybody.
No, dude.
He didn't aggress against anybody. He just decided to resist theft.
Exactly, man. And, he openly resisted it. He stated why. And,
he wrote several books on it. And one of them, which was
no
banned.
court really wanted to hear it. It's you can't really trust the government to hold the government accountable.
Yeah. We've investigated ourselves and found ourselves innocent, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, totally.
That's the common trope.
It's, while legally he was right, it's dangerous to be right when the government's wrong.
Right.
So yeah, this is totally a sad day.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely explains why Peter Schiff is just so. I mean, he's just so active. He's so, he's just basically trying to preserve his father's legacy.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard Schiff talk about his father, and it's basically like he disagrees with like the way in which his father did what he did. Like Schiff looks at it like I think my father was 100% right, but it doesn't matter because once again, it's dangerous to be right when the government's wrong. They're still going to throw you in a fucking rape dungeon.
Right.
And let you die in there as a 86-year-old man of fucking cancer.
Shackled to a bed.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Schiff looked at it like, he's just going to pay his taxes,
Yeah, I mean, I think Ron Paul?
And apparently Schiff even told his dad that, he told his dad, he's like, it doesn't matter if you're right, they're going to throw you in a cage.
Yeah, and you can't do a whole lot of good when you're in a cage.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It sucks that he's in a fucking cage, but I think it's been said that like one activist in jail is more powerful than like 100 out of prison, because then that will bring attention to you. But I don't know. I mean, who's to say if that's true? Because Peter Schiff on the other hand.
How do you quantify that?
Well, yeah, Irwin Schiff's son, Peter Schiff. He does like podcast. Probably at least a couple a week, and he's probably interviewed by like a major media outlet at least like once every 2 weeks, sometimes like 3 times in the same week, Yeah. It's, he's getting out a lot, and
I think people are way more familiar with Peter Schiff than they are of his father, at least in our generation.
Well, yeah. Irwin Schiff actually ran for the Libertarian presidential, he was trying to be our candidate in 1996, and he lost to Harry Brown, who then went on to be the Libertarian presidential candidate in 96 and then again in 2000. So, Harry Brown was if you're going to lose to somebody, Harry Brown was, that's not too shabby. Harry Brown was a good guy as well.
Yeah. It's really sad.
Yeah, man. Other tax resistors that come to mind that are currently in prison. There's Ed and Elaine Brown, and if you YouTube their story, that's also very interesting. They're both older senior citizens who were tax resistors, and it's pretty fucked up to learn about how the government went after them, and it's really insane. Like as a matter of fact, they even had a friend of theirs that just like went over to like walk their dog for them. And like this dude's in prison for years for like walking their dog because it was like helping them or something.
What?
It's fucking.
Wait,
crazy,
while they
dude.
were in prison, he went over and walked their dog.
No, this is while they were actually living on their property, and the feds were like officially after them.
Okay.
But I forget exactly how long. It's been a while since I've watched since I've read anything on it. But I believe they were holding up for like a few months or a year or something, and. They really couldn't leave their property, but people in the town would bring them food and stuff, and friends would hook them up. But towards the end, basically the government came in and they shot at this dude who was like walking their dog for him.
They shot at him?
Yes, and then they end up now this guy's in prison, like as well, and it's like for what? For walking somebody's dog?
Yeah,
it's fucking insane. The guy's still in fucking prison. I think he might have got a longer sentence than them. I mean, it's just like fucking insane.
It's almost like the whole tax thing is just. I mean, I'm sure they were actually evading, breaking whatever that law was, but it just makes me think of how they always managed to catch these like mafia dudes back in the day. They always get them on tax evasion, and it almost seems like it's this fallback thing that they can just use anytime they want to bust somebody. Not to say that the mafia guys weren't guilty of other shit.
No, yeah.
But, it's like this thing, like,
yeah.
I'm sure everybody could go to jail. If you have X amount of money, I'm sure they could find some way to throw you in jail. You know what I mean?
They could probably find a way to throw you or I in jail. Here's why, dude. Because the fucking tax code is just so complicated, and that's why they can throw like anybody in jail because it's so much BS, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, they can probably find a way for anybody. They can probably make up anything.
Yeah.
And did you know that the fucking IRS, they can actually go into your house without a warrant?
The IRS. I think I heard about that.
I believe they're like the only people that can do that.
It's so ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, I mean it's fucking insane, dude.
Well, I mean, they say war is the health of the state, but really it's taxation is the health of the state, right?
Well, I mean, between that and the Federal Reserve,
Yeah.
Because that's how they fund the wars.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I guess they take it real personally when you're not going to fork up that kid's ash.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Anything else more you want to say about Schiff, man?
Sorry, just hitting that bowl.
Oh. Yeah, a little hash in there.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. So yeah, I think that's about it for Peter Schiff. Irwin Schiff. I'm sorry. Rest in peace.
Yeah. All right. So it's recently come out that Russia went into Iraq with I believe it was all air support, and took out a huge portion of their stockpile, their munition stockpile, and I think they took out a top leader. Meanwhile, the U.S. continues to drone bomb innocent people and basically did nothing to stop ISIS at all. And then Putin just comes along and just fucks them up.
Yeah, so I mean, it just seems to me like Putin's just out to make us look bad to like the entire world.
Yeah.
This seems like a political bombing more than anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think
Putin's necessarily out to do good. I think it's basically like to me, it's like, I mean, to me, it's like, our government and our media, which is, controlled by our government, or in the very least owned by the same people who fund the politicians who make all these decisions. So, how could you expect the media to report honestly on said politicians when they both have the same backers? That would be a conflict of interest, correct?
Right. Yes.
So, ISIS is like the ever since like fucking, Bin Laden, the boogeyman, was supposedly killed by, fucking Barack Obama, which personally, I don't know. I think he was dead before that.
Yeah, there's a lot actually coming out about that now.
Well, I mean, dude, I've said it since the beginning. And
yeah.
I remember hearing rumors, but before Bin Laden was dead, for about a year or two before that, he was already dead.
Yeah.
You hadn't heard anything from him. He was consistently doing updates before that,
Right.
So, yeah. I mean,
he had his own YouTube channel, I think.
Yeah, and personally, I just don't buy the fact that they're just going to dump his body in the ocean. This is like fucking, this is enemy number one all around the world. You're not going to allow an independent autopsy. You're not going to have like just total fucking proof.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, weren't they claiming that they were like paying some respect to like Islam by doing that or some shit?
Yeah, it's fucking horseshit.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
I mean, look, dude, you know me.
That?
You know me. Like, I'm the least susceptible to like conspiracy theories. Like, I don't like them, right? But that is one thing where I'm just like, what the fuck?
No, yeah. I mean, dude, yeah. I thought it reeked to high heaven from the get-go, dude.
And it seemed like nobody. I think people were so caught up in the fact that he was finally dead that they didn't even question. They were like, all right, he's dead, good, let's move on.
Yeah, and at the same time, I'm not sitting here, I'm not telling anybody that I know exactly what happened to Osama bin Laden. I'm just saying that I doubt the official story.
Yeah,
I think some of the craziness gets into where people claim to really know what. I mean, I don't know. I mean, somebody probably does know. I wish they would fucking leak it to The Intercept or something. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
but yeah, man. It's so basically ISIS is like the new terror boogeyman to like justify all the wars, and our media is like just constantly just like getting people scared of ISIS and stuff, and so it's pretty funny. Like, we're doing all this talk, and meanwhile we're already in a shitload of other countries, and bombing innocent civilians,
yeah,
and meanwhile like Russia's killing our boogeyman.
Yeah, I mean, ISIS does pose a threat, not necessarily to us. I mean, I think they are a problem in the world, but they are a problem that I argue, needs to be taken care of by the region, and that's pretty much what Russia did. I mean, that's kind of on their doorstep. They came in and took care of it for whatever their reasoning for doing it. It was probably just Putin just trying to fucking shove his fist up Obama's ass. But
Yeah.
whatever it is, I mean, obviously it just exposes or it just raises the question of what the fuck are we doing? We being, or them being the U.S. government.
Yeah. Not.
I don't like to say
my
we.
friend.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
it's fucked up, man. It's weird.
Yep.
So moving on, we had the first Democratic debates.
Yeah.
Are you feeling the burn, man?
No, not at all. What I will say is, I think like up to this point, we've been catching a lot of heat on PRL for ragging on Bernie Sanders, and
I see that on a lot of libertarian pages now, like Free Talk Live. Every time they post something, there's like one of the top liked comments is always some guy like just arguing with whatever it is that they post. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's like there's this huge libertarian or pseudo-libertarian, however you want to think about it, group of people that is all about Bernie Sanders.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people think that Bernie Sanders is like libertarian-ish in some ways,
I think they're yeah, I mean, it's the whole anti-banker, anti-1% in the sense that like the 1% is the 1% that controls the government and that lobbies the government and runs the media and all the shit that you were talking about before. So the fact that he's against the 1% in a sense does conform to some libertarian ideas.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, because it's basically like I think Democrats like to talk a lot about wealth inequality.
Yeah.
And I think libertarians are talking about ending wealth inequality too, but ending it like naturally and organically without force.
Right.
Because libertarians, here's the difference between like libertarians and Bernie Sanders, or at least anarcho-capitalist or Austrian economist and Bernie Sanders. Here's the difference. Okay. We understand economics. Bernie Sanders doesn't. Bernie Sanders, his whole philosophy is rooted in redistribution. And which is essentially stealing from one person and giving to another.
Yeah.
That's it.
Did you see the?
And here's the problem with Bernie Sanders. Even if well, let's just say taxation is moral. I don't believe it is, but let's just say it is. Okay. Let's just say it's moral to steal from people and give to other people, But and even if it is moral, which I'm not arguing that it is, I would argue that it won't work, because right now you're looking at like, okay, well, these 1% of people, they've got like, there's all these rich people and they have all this money that they're not being taxed on, blah blah blah. So you tax all these rich people to pay for all these nice things that you want to give out, free college, free ponies, whatevs. And,
I'll take a free pony, dude.
So you tax them this year, right?
Yeah.
So all that money that you're taking from them is money that could potentially be put into, the private economy and, could create more wealth for others. So, next year, they're not multiplying that cash. So,
see, that's part of the problem.
It's basically, so there's really, I mean, you're going to get less revenue from them next year.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem is people imagine the 1% they just have piles of cash sitting around. But the reality is that most of that cash is tied up in investments or whatever business they're running or other it's not just fucking piles of cash or gold or whatever is sitting around. Like it's in the economy, and the only way that it's going to find its way naturally to the rest of the people is through the economy. And like you said, like the ideas of Bernie Sanders is take that money with force and then give it to people in the form of free college or increased funding to public education. And the reality is that's probably not the best use of that money. And the reality is that nobody really knows what the best use of money is. only the individual knows what the best use of money is for themselves.
Or
and the market,
I think they have a better idea of what the best use of money is for themselves than some dictator who's making these decisions for everybody. Yes,
right. Yes,
course,
I mean I can be wrong and buy something and realize, oh, I wasted my money, but it's better than having some bureaucracy with a bunch of overpaid people.
Yeah, I mean,
that can't be fired deciding what to do with that money.
Personally, I'd rather deal with the problems of too much liberty than the problem of too little liberty.
Sure.
You know, yeah, it's it's just common sense. I believe markets are going to work out better than central planning.
Did you see? I think I saw you posted it. The Tom Woods video.
Which one?
He I guess he posed some question on Facebook that got I think he said 1 million people saw it or something.
Yeah. I actually posted this earlier.
Yeah.
And I have to ask which one because I post fucking I don't know, probably at least a half dozen Tom Woods things on PRL every week.
Yeah.
I love Tom Woods.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's one. It's one of the few podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis, and I look forward to finding it every night and checking it out. So at any rate, yeah, his question was, if if you can take money from the 1% because they have more than you, and if that's moral. What about all these third world countries? Should they be able to take money from you?
Yeah, because we are essentially the 1%.
Because you have more than them? Yeah, we're the 1% of the world.
Right.
Yeah, and it's that would be interesting, And of course, you've got a statist commented right away and said and said, well, we do give them money, It's
we give them money. That's the point.
No, well, you can't even say that. You can't say that we give them money. Our government gives them money that is extorted from us.
Sure.
We don't give them money, but I mean, people do people do voluntarily give, to all sorts of private charities. Yes.
Yeah.
But what this dude was pointing out was our government handing out money all over the world and stuff.
Okay, but it's not the same as. It's not at the same level. It's not okay, we're going to take 50% of your salary and distribute it to a village in Middle Africa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's some portion of the taxes or whatever that goes into some sort of fund somewhere and is given out as aid. It's not the same. It's not exactly the same concept.
Yeah. So, but where I am sympathizing with Bernie this week, or maybe not even as much Bernie. I'm not really sympathizing for Bernie as much as I am Bernie supporters. Because, I mean, honestly, I know some people who identify as libertarian or at least have in the past. I think they're identifying as libertarian less nowadays. If I can't speak for everybody, so, and it seems like no matter what I say, somebody's going to get pissed off at me. But, I do know some people that did identify as libertarian and now they're Bernie supporters and they're feeling the burn. And it's funny because, people like to talk about similarities between Ron Paul and Bernie Sanders. And it's half the time I'm I kind of get pissed off about that because, Ron Paul's so much cooler than Bernie Sanders. And
he's actually come out against Bernie Sanders, too.
Yeah. And well, the reason Ron, to me, is so much cooler, the primary reason, the first one that comes to mind is Ron was, 100% just staunchly anti-war. Whereas, Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, to my knowledge, the only thing he did was he voted against going into Iraq in 2002. But, besides that, every other time, he's all for any war.
Right.
And, so he'll like to talk a good game in speeches, about how he's going to be less of a warmonger or whatever. But, so did Barack Obama.
Right.
So, yeah, he's not there on war, and if you have to pick an issue, I mean I don't know. I think there's a lot of issues to choose from, but I mean what probably one if not the most important issue for me is who's gonna do less killing, who's gonna do less murder.
Yeah,
and Bernie doesn't have the best track record.
No.
And another funny thing about the Democratic debate was, well, I'd say one funny thing to me was, Bernie said that Snowden should be thrown in a cage.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, it's kind of expected, because it seems like anybody running for president, it's like if they say that he's a hero, it seems like, didn't you say one person?
There was one guy, I can't fucking remember his name, but he was like all the way on the left, like on the left side of the stage. It wasn't Jim Webb, it wasn't Clinton, it wasn't Bernie.
Okay, so now we know who it wasn't.
Yeah, I can't fucking. I mean, the guy's like probably not going to be in the next debate, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean that was. I mean, he said, like, Bernie said something about how, like, he said something like Snowden educated the public, and that's a good thing, but basically the law is the law, and he needs to go on trial.
The law is the law.
And I mean, fucking Rand Paul said the same thing, so.
Yeah, the law is the law when slavery was legal,
Right.
The law is the law when the Holocaust was legal.
That's when you know somebody has
to respect the law.
That's when you know somebody has a really sketchy.
I mean, doesn't that sound like a fucking cult?
What's that?
Doesn't that sound like a cult?
Yeah.
It's just the audacity. The law is the law. The law has never been, 100% morally just.
No.
Why don't you look about the law, and why don't you talk about the law, and why don't you talk about like how you feel about the law? Tell me why that law is right.
Yeah.
Tell me who Snowden hurt. Tell me who was the victim in his crime. He gave information out to his fellow countrymen in the media, but not one thing that he gave out was proven to harm the U.S.
Right.
And
that was Hillary's claim, right?
Well, Hillary said this. This was probably the funniest moment of the debate for me. Hillary said that well, Snowden, he's a whistleblower. The problem is he did it illegally. There are channels to go through to be a whistleblower. And it's like, fuck you, bitch. People have went through those channels before, and they've been thrown into fucking prison. Yeah. The reason Snowden didn't get thrown into prison is because he had the good sense to leave the country before he leaked everything.
Right.
So, fuck Hillary.
Yeah.
But it's funny too, because everybody talks about it's one thing to think about. Everybody talks about like the fucking liberal media, right?
Yes.
And Bernie Sanders is a socialist. He's not really a liberal.
Yeah, right.
You see what I'm saying?
I mean, it depends on what you.
Yeah, I mean,
how you define liberal.
Yeah, it's all semantics. You could say a libertarian's a liberal by the classical definition of the word.
Yeah.
But we do have this liberal media. With the exception of Fox News, which is far right, or not even far right. I'd call them neocon.
Neocon.
Yeah.
Christian conservative.
Yeah, I mean, it all gets confusing, especially when you've been smoking weed. So we've got this liberal media, and they're backing Hillary, because they aren't really socialist.
No. Well, they don't want the status quo to be
altered
at all. Yeah. I mean,
Totally.
it doesn't matter what direction you come at it from. As if you're upsetting the status quo, you're the enemy to them.
Yeah. I mean, they're just perfectly happy with the way things are going, and that's why they get in more of the same candidates. And who is more of the same than Hillary Clinton? Yeah, exactly. I mean, who is more of the same than Hillary Clinton? And then, yeah. I mean, come on. And then, and it's funny, even going into the election, everybody's talking like, well, it's going to be Jeb Bush and Hillary. It's like, who's talking that? Who was talking about Jeb Bush 6 months ago besides the media?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like they just pick these people and just plant these thoughts in our head because, they know that, they've got a track record of upholding the status quo.
Right. So yeah, they were making the claim that Hillary won the debate. That like every news article that came out after that debate in any major publication was Hillary wins the debate, or
Yeah.
It's Hillary's debate to lose or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas, like, I mean,
in
if you
spite of Bernie Sanders winning every fucking poll, you know, whereas I know everybody that,
or at least every
everybody
poll
that
that
I
really,
everybody that I heard talking about the debate was like, you know, Bernie Sanders, and this is just normal people, you know?
right. Yeah, I mean, like there are polls that apparently have Hillary beating him, but it's like, where are they fucking sourcing these polls? I'm always skeptical of a lot of polls. Because it's like, first of all, have I ever been polled for anything? No. You know, so who the fuck, where are they finding these fuckers, man?
No, I mean, don't you ever have like people call up your house for like, I guess like a poll or whatever? And have you ever had this where like they're doing like surveys or whatever? Like, well, I've had.
Well,
like,
I don't have like a. Do they call your cell phone? Because I don't have.
No, I've had people call my house phone, and then
like
they'll be asking me about like some sort of political survey, and I usually try to like stay on the line, and if I've got time, like if I'm in the middle of doing something, I'm like, fuck off, and I'll say stuff like that, and then, but if I've got time, it's like, sure, I can fuck with this guy for a little bit,
So wait, do you give them real answers, or do you just fuck with them?
No, well, I'll get on and try to make them think, and usually their questions are tailored to go right or left, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like they're tailored to provoke a certain reaction, whether you're liberal or conservative, Whereas being libertarian, like I can throw them off, and like I'll kind of like throw an idea in there, and it's like, and they'll literally like. They don't know what the fuck to say. It's like they haven't thought about it. They've thought about this question like two ways, and that is it.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. I wish I would get those calls. So you think that's where they get these polls that they always reference?
I mean, dude, who knows? I mean, half of them they're probably pulling out of their ass. But,
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
but dude, here's the thing. I fucking, and I'm not saying I'm some sort of, I'm not like better than anyone else at this kind of thing, but like I fucking predicted that this was going to happen to Bernie Sanders as soon as he came on the scene. I was like, they're going to do exactly what they did to Ron Paul in fucking 2008 or 2012, and probably 2008. Well, more 2012 when he was actually like more serious.
Yeah, I mean they had to get him. They had to do it more in 2012 because he was picking up more steam. He was picking up more support.
But I was like, dude, watch. You're going to see the media is going to completely go against Bernie Sanders. You're going to start seeing hit pieces come out. You're going to start seeing polls, getting fucked with, exactly what we're talking about now. Like but it didn't take that much forethought to really figure that shit out. I mean, like we said, the status quo. They don't want anything that's going to jostle that's going to throw that off. And it's funny. I wonder how many of these Bernie Sanders supporters are going to vote for Hillary when he doesn't win the nomination.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be nice if they would vote for somebody else or
just not vote.
I don't know. I mean, personally, the not voting thing, it's like tons of people don't vote every time, I think you can rock it a little bit more, and you send a better message to both parties when you actually go take the time to vote and don't vote for them.
So you're saying vote for Gary Johnson?
Vote for Gary Johnson, vote for Mickey Mouse. I mean, vote for anybody, dude. You can vote. Might vote for Jill Stein.
Yeah.
And I think that sends more of a message because I mean, what message does it? I mean, dude, so many people don't vote already. What message has that been sending? But if
so, wait, are you against the anarchist, non-principled voting now?
Am I against that? I mean, it's like I just don't think it's the best idea.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like I understand principled not voting. I was a principled non-voter for a long time. But I mean, it's basically like, dude, I mean, once again, it's, there's like a little under half the people that are eligible to vote don't vote. A lot of people don't vote,
Yeah.
So
you're not really separating yourself from the pack by not voting.
Exactly. You're not separating yourself from the dude that's just too apathetic not to vote.
Right.
I mean, you're doing it in principle, but you're not being heard at all. Whereas,
yeah, I mean, I think you can make that conscious decision. Well, I'm going to vote for this reason, but I don't necessarily think that makes you better than someone who just like I'm just don't want to
I'm
participate.
I'm not saying anybody's better or worse.
Yeah,
than
no,
anybody.
I
I'm
got
not
you.
saying this gives you any more personal worth.
Yeah,
But I'm saying it might do a little bit more. I mean, and like for instance, like I saw like I think it was like today or yesterday, like Stephen Kinsella was on Facebook and he was talking about like how he wants the Republicans to win. And his reason for that is they'll take less of his money because like every single Democrat is going to tax more. So and he's also he also admitted to donating to George Bush in 2000 because George Bush was libertarian-ish.
really.
Yeah. Well, and then you could argue that in 2000 George Bush was more libertarian-ish than the other candidates. And, see, this is what Kinsella was even saying. And, it's Bush got really bad when it came time to, like, post 9/11.
Yeah,
That
he didn't see that coming.
I mean, granted, that's only 1 year of Bush's presidency or whatever. And you can't say how it was going to go if 9/11 never happened because, I mean, who knows,
Right.
But, this is just Kinsella's take on it. He has a right to his own opinions. He's a smart dude. I like him a lot of the time. But yeah, I'm not so sure if I want the Republicans to win. I'm not so sure if Romney would have done a better or worse job than Obama. I'm not so sure if McCain would have done a better or worse job than Obama. I honestly, I mean, they could have done worse for all that.
I don't know, but like taking less of your money just seems like, I don't know. I mean, like I'd rather vote for somebody who's going to take more of my money, but also not do as much killing. You know what I mean? Like, if there was an actual Democrat who was not going to continue wars, obviously you don't know that beforehand, but if maybe you felt that was going to be the case, but he's also going to increase taxes on you, I might vote for that guy. You know what I mean? I don't know that taking less of my money is the ultimate factor.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I'm not saying it's the most important issue.
Right.
But, I don't know. When you say that, like a Democrat who's not going to start as many wars, I mean, it's like, I don't know, man. I mean, Obama has only expanded upon wars since
he's
been in office.
I'm just saying
he was
hypothetically.
the peace candidate,
Yeah, no.
So I'm not sure if that Democratic peace candidate exists.
So basically the argument is all things equal, which it normally is, the Republicans will probably take less of your money. Or at least that would be Kinsella's argument.
I'm not really endorsing either,
Yeah.
It's basically the only Republican that I think that I could stomach voting for would be Rand Paul.
Yeah.
Who has, not always made me happy all the time,
Yeah.
So, and I'm not so sure that I would, necessarily vote for him if he did win, but I might consider it.
Mm.
I have a love-hate thing with the guy, but I would vote for Gary Johnson, if he decides to run, and if Gary doesn't decide to run, and I don't like who the LP's running, I could potentially see myself, writing in somebody else.
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking of the media, apparently a Fox News consultant who claimed for 27 years that he was a member or an ex-member of the CIA, or is that what it was? Ex-member?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's a Fox Media News consultant who claimed that he worked for the CIA for 27 years.
Right.
And he was arrested for, making false statements, against the U.S. government or something. So, yeah, it's pretty comical. Fox News has their, terrorist expert who's supposedly ex-CIA who wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many other people do you think are consultants on these programs and are just complete frauds? But not to, like, that serious of a degree. Well, I mean, because, like, they're always bringing on some asshat to talk about some issue, and half the time they're just, you can just tell they're talking out of their ass. I mean, I try not to watch too much of that shit, but occasionally they'll have it, like, on at the gym or something, and I'll just glance up, and it'll be just some dickhole just mouthing off about something, and I'm just like, what the fuck does this guy know? You know?
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, it's clearly just manufactured to, because their whole thing is like, there's always got to be two different points of view. And hold on, let me toss this lighter across the room at Matt. Oh
shit!
You got it, buddy?
Yeah, sure.
All right, but it seems with all these news programs, like CNN, Fox News, those kinds of political oriented shows, they're always just trying to manufacture. There's always just two different sides. You know, it's usually left and right, or this is wrong, this is not wrong, right? And, you know, there's never, like, an actual discussion or a middle ground or, like, alternative viewpoints. It's always just... So, of course, they're going to find somebody who has, like, some sort of imaginary credential that they can just throw up there and say, oh, yeah, this guy believes this. And, you know, I don't know. I'm not, you know, this isn't any crazy thing that no one doesn't already know. But It's funny when someone actually gets caught and goes to jail over it. Although it's still kind of fucked up.
Well, yeah, he hasn't went to jail. He hasn't went to jail yet. So, but he's potentially facing up to 35 years in a rape dungeon. So,
yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah. So,
but all right. What the fuck does this say? The drone, the whole drone thing that The Intercept got.
Yeah, so apparently there's a new whistleblower in town, you know. And
did he blow into town?
Anyways, he sent he leaked some documents through The Intercept about the United States drone program, and apparently it's even on record that 90% of the people killed by drones are actually civilians and not targets.
Yeah, well, you know, the big problem with the drones is they use metadata to target. So basically, they're looking at like phone calls on people's cell phones and like who they're talking to, not even what's being said. But the problem with that is, I mean, metadata does say a lot, but it's not as exact as, you know, listening to someone say, I'm planning to blow up this place at this time or whatever. And they're also just basically just targeting a cell phone. So, I mean, the cell phone could be in a house full of children. It could be on the person. It could be anywhere. So, you know, clearly this precise drone targeting that they're using is not precise at all. So, yeah, I mean, it isn't surprising, unfortunately, that 90% of the people getting killed are just innocent civilians.
Yep.
They're just caught up in a bunch of bullshit.
You know, it's just startling to think that you're paying for it. You know, it's just like over and over again. It's just what the fuck, man. What the fuck? It's at the same time, you know, it's really cool to see that another whistleblower has had the courage to come out.
Have they named the guy, or is it?
As far as I know, they don't have a name yet, but I'm sure if we get that name, we'll talk about him.
Yeah,
or her, whoever it may be.
However they choose to identify. I wanted to ask you a question I thought of when we were outside taking a little smoky break. So, I mean, we've talked about gun control a little bit on this podcast. And I was just thinking, and I think this has probably been brought up before, but let me pose this question. Let's say a gun store so someone comes into a gun store and they're clearly mentally ill. And maybe they're talking about going and committing a murder or something like that, or they just look really off. And the gun store sells that person a gun, and then that person does go and do a mass shooting. Do you think the gun store should be held liable? Not gun manufacturers, like the common argument is, but what about a gun store in that circumstance? Could they be sued at least?
Well, like the fine looks a little bit off.
Well, okay. I mean, not looks a little bit off. Like it's clear, like someone saying, like, "I'm gonna fucking kill that guy. I'm gonna fucking," you know, something like that. Let's just hypothetically say that they were clearly.
Well, this sounds very hypothetical because, like, I think if somebody kills somebody, and then like they're on the news, like, you know, John Smith just killed a man, I don't think the gun store is going to be like, yeah, I sold him the gun. He totally said he was going to kill a man. It's like I don't see I don't really see the situation where this would even happen. And, you know, if the gun store, you know, technically,
or like, what if a kid goes into a store and buys like, yeah, I mean, it is a slippery slope, but yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, a kid goes into a store and buys like just fucking like 10 guns. And it just seems very suspicious. And yeah, you're right. I mean, the gun store is obviously not going to say like, oh yeah, I sold him those guns.
I mean, it's just not very probable.
Yeah.
And I mean, really though, like, does the guy pass his like background check?
Well, that's what I'm saying though. Like,
no, I'm saying, like, does the guy pass his background check? Yes, no.
Let's say he doesn't.
Well, if he doesn't, you know, there's already laws against that, and gun stores can already be held accountable for that.
Right, but see, my whole thing is like, how would this be conducted in a free society? Like, I feel like we'd have to come up with some way of at least trying to prevent guns from getting into the hands of people they shouldn't be in the hands of. No,
I mean, we already have plenty of ways. You know, we already have gun registration. We already have waiting periods, and you know, most criminals buy their guns through the black market. So I mean, you know, I mean, you've got drugs are illegal. How are we going to keep those from people? We can't even keep drugs out of prisons. How are we going to keep drugs out of a quote unquote free society?
Well, wait, what? I'm not trying to keep I'm not trying to keep guns out of a free society. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, like how are you going to do this? I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm more concerned with, you know, because I'm not so sure you can totally stop somebody from having a gun. It's not like it's fucking rocket science, dude. You know, I'm sure somebody could, you know, download some files on the internet and figure out how to build one in their basement if they wanted to.
Or when 3D printers finally get up to speed and you can just fucking print a gun.
Yeah, dude. And then, you know, in places where guns aren't as readily available, you know, you've got people killing each other with knives, you know. It's, are you going to blame lighters for arsonists? You know, I mean, it's like you're just going to blame inanimate objects, you know. It's like we only do that with a gun. We don't do it with anything else.
Well, but my whole thing is like, is there anybody aside from,
you know,
the mentally ill person that can be held responsible? I'm just posing the question.
Well, I'll pose a question to you. I mean, why is it every time somebody's killed by a drunk driver, you know, we always go after drunk drivers, you know, but you know, why is it we just don't go after alcohol? I mean, why is it any different with guns?
Well, I mean, you can certainly go after a bar that serves somebody alcohol past.
No, but we don't. We always go after drunk drivers. Like, think about every fucking.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying what should we do, or what could be done. I'm not saying what it is now.
Like how could you go after the bar? And I think they actually do go after the bar, if you know
I mean, I know there are cases where they have gone after bars, and I know cases where like they've gone after like a parent that had a party and some kid got drunk and killed himself. They'll go after the parent that supplied the alcohol for that, but that's also just supplying alcohol to a minor. But I think there are additional charges. But I'm not even saying that that's right. I'm just spitballing. I'm just wondering if there's a way, what is the best way to develop a responsible culture around guns? And I mean, I think the answer that we're going to eventually get to is education. You know, education in using guns, and even education in dealing with a mass shooting. Like this guy guy I follow, I've talked about him before on the podcast, Sam Harris. I mean, he's he's a stated liberal, but he's also like very anti like PC and very and so he came out with a podcast about gun control, and I kind of expected it to be like the typical liberal thing, but he basically, I mean, on the one hand, he did advocate for like making it very hard to get guns, which I thought was a little ridiculous because I don't think that's possible. But on the other hand, he basically made the point that, look, there's There's already many guns, and you do have the right to defend yourself. And if you're able to, his argument was like, if you're able to train yourself to a point where you can defend yourself, you can definitely properly defend yourself with a gun, which is like a thing that liberals don't want to admit, that it's actually like possible to defend yourself with a gun. But yeah, and it just sort of, where was I going with that? But yeah, we need to, and he was just talking about how, so he was talking about how for these mass shootings, like, people typically aren't prepared for dealing with that sort of situation. And I mean, and it makes sense because it doesn't happen that often. However, there are better ways to just prepare people for that situation, and even just similar simulations where they're being, where they need to use self-defense. Like, most people don't have self-defense training at all. So, his thing was like, in schools or whatever, or places where, colleges where this keeps on happening, you train people to, you don't send one guy running after the guy with the gun. You don't ever just listen to the guy and get in the corner because he's just going to end up shooting you. You have to have everybody bull rush the guy. And that's like the best way to take down one of these guys. But anyways, it's, and it sucks that we live in a world where you have to worry about that. But I think what we're driving at here is it's pretty much unavoidable at this point. And the best way to deal with it is to just educate people and teach people how to respond to those situations. And then also to avoid all the accidental gun deaths and stuff like that. That's just better
really
education.
Not that many accidental gun deaths.
What's that?
There's more like fucking people dying in swimming pools, dude.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I mean, it's
there's more
really,
people dying in car accidents.
So if you're talking about like accidental deaths, there's so many things to prompt more concern than guns. But the bottom line is, the powers that be, once you disarmed, that is their agenda. That has always been the agenda of bureaucrats, dictators, fascists. That has always been their agenda. So that's why they're talking about guns as opposed to fucking swimming pools or car accidents or
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what more to say on that. I mean, I think we all pretty much, I think most of our listeners are pretty anti-gun control.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Did you want to bring up the TPP again? I know we talked about that last time, or you guys did.
Like, have you read into it much?
Not a whole lot. I mean, apparently there isn't really much to read into because a lot of it's been kept secret.
Yeah, so 4 chapters have been leaked, and so the TPP is stands for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's a deal that a trade deal that Obama brokered behind closed doors and was written by guys from the largest corporations, and it affects I believe it's 60 or 40% of the world's trade, a big chunk of the world's trade. And a lot of it, it'll basically put the responsibility on internet service providers to catch people, downloading like songs, TV shows, all sorts of like. There's a lot of IP stuff in there, and then pharmaceutical companies. It'll stretch their patents, which are government-controlled monopolies, on different drugs like across the globe. So it'll really hurt. It'll really fuck people in undeveloped countries who are part of this deal, and it'll profit the U.S. pharmaceutical companies. You hear all the time about how drugs cost less in other countries, and maybe not in as many other countries after this deal passes. And the most fucked up thing about this deal, I think, is that even after before Congress votes on it, they're not even going to be allowed to read it. There's certain parts of the deal that aren't even going to be seen by anybody until 4 years after it passes.
How's that even legal?
Exactly. I mean, it's fucking criminal, dude. It's fucking insane. So, what I'm hoping is, I don't see enough people talking about this. I'm hoping that's why I wanted to bring it up again.
Did they talk about it in the Democratic debate at all?
I doubt it, man. I mean, honestly, I didn't watch because, like, the reason I watched the Republican debate was, and I didn't even watch, like, the whole thing. Like, I watched, like, a bunch of, like, snippets. And, but I watched a little bit, browsed it here and there. It was honestly, it was hard to find a download of it, or it was hard to find a stream of it on the internet that was working for me. But the reason I watched the Republican debate was, I dig Rand Paul, but, but with the Democratic debate, I mean, there was honestly nobody there that, I like. I'm kind of entertained by Bernie Sanders, and like I like him more than the other guys, it seems.
What do you think about Jim Webb?
I don't know enough about the guy. Like, I believe I heard a little bit about him this week.
I've seen some libertarians supporting him.
Wasn't he? He's pretty cool on gun control, from what I've heard. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing I saw was the whole Vietnam thing.
Wait, is he the guy that said something really crazy at the end?
He said something about
stabbing a man's eyeball out or something. I don't know. I thought I heard something pretty crazy.
The only opposition I had was in Vietnam, and I killed him with a grenade or some shit like that.
Yeah, that was the guy. Okay. Yeah, I heard about that dude.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. At any rate, I think more attention needs to be drawn to the TPP.
Yeah. I don't have anything else on here.
Cool. So that's it for this week.
Oh, let me say, I don't know if I said this last time, but if you're listening to this on iTunes, please go and leave a comment or feedback on iTunes because it helps us out. I mean, preferably good shit, but
preferably.
Yeah, so do that.
Yeah.
And check out punkrocklibertarians.com.
Totally. And then once again as well, we're always accepting submissions on the website. So, submit an article. We've tried to create a podium to get these ideas out there. So, come help us. We can't do it all by ourselves. Until next time, live free.
Blood that is shed, drenching the flags of the tax bombs in red. Was its way of few at the expense of the many. So did the cards in the death machine. You can't justify killing by economic gain. For God, country, and democracy, you can put freedom in gunpoint in a foreign land. We support the troops, then bring them home. I believe that you will do the best for you. And I believe that we have the power, have the power. I hate the state, and I know I'm a slave. We can make a break the power, break the power. Society owes individuals nothing more than non-interference with natural rights. Once a virtuous person fully comprehends the non-aggression principle, the violence of the state becomes obsolete.